Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
The courtroom felt colder than the winter morning outside. Maybe it was the marble floors, maybe it was the silence, or maybe it was the way every pair of eyes seemed to land on me like I didn't belong there. My gown, the only nice one I owned, swayed against my ankles as if reminding me of its thrift store origin. Still, I forced my shoulders back. I couldn't let them see me break. Not today. My parents sat in the front row, radiant in their designer coats, glittering with jewelry that reflected the overhead lights like accusations. They looked like the hearing was merely an inconvenient brunch they had to attend before returning to their perfect lives. My mother leaned toward my father, whispering behind her manicured hand. "She looks nervous," she murmured. My father didn't hide his reaction. He rolled his eyes at me. The same dismissal I'd grown up swallowing like bitter medicine. I exhaled slowly, hearing Grandma June's voice echo through my mind. "Stand tall, Alice, even when they try to bury you." I moved to the defendant's table, where the man who'd engineered half my nightmares sat waiting, Elias Crane. My parents' attorney, their sharpened blade. With his slicked back hair and an unnatural, forced smile. He turned to greet me like a predator acknowledging its prey. "Morning, Alice," he said casually, tapping his pen. "Prepared to let the adults handle things today?" My jaw clenched. I'm ready to defend myself without anyone's help. That wiped the smirk off, momentarily. But it returned when my parents glanced his way, as if silently asking whether their plan was airtight. And that's when I knew. They weren't afraid of losing. They were convinced I'd already lost. I took my seat, pulse thundering. The judge hadn't even entered yet, and already the weight of their betrayal pressed against my ribs. If I had known the evidence waiting for me in Grandma's old trunk, evidence that would flip this entire courtroom upside down, I might have run. But fate had already started the countdown, and none of us were ready for the explosion. People say childhood shapes you. Mine didn't shape, it carved. Every corner, every silence, every comparison left a mark. Mason, my older brother, was the sun in our household. Everything revolved around him. His trophies lined the hallway, his photographs filled the living room. His birthday parties looked like royal coronations. And me? I learned to be quiet so I wouldn't be called ungrateful. While Mason was driven to private tutoring in a shiny SUV, I took the bus to school in a uniform 2 sizes too big. When he got a new car at 16, I got a part-time job wiping tables at the diner off Highway 12. But there was one person who saw me, Grandma June. She would stop by the diner late at night, pretending she came for pie. "Your eyes look tired, sweetheart," she'd say, brushing crumbs toward the edge of her plate. "These are just working eyes, Grandma," I'd answer. "And working eyes see truths lazy eyes miss." She'd wink, as if giving me a treasure. Her real gift came later. "Keep receipts, Alice, not out of spite, but out of self-preservation." I didn't understand, but I kept them, every letter, every bank slip, every email she ever forwarded, just in case. When she died, the world hollowed, and then the will reading shattered what remained. Mason got the house. My parents got the investments. I got the education fund. They snickered, until the accountant slid forward the final numbers. 17 years of building up the fund by my grandmother. $1.6 million. More than they received combined. My mother's smile froze. My father's eyebrows twitched. Mason muttered, "That can't be right." But Grandma had known exactly what she was doing. What none of us knew then was that the moment that number left the accountant's lips, my parents began plotting how to steal every cent from me. 2 weeks after the reading of Grandma's will, my parents summoned me home with the same tone they used when demanding chores from a teenager. I walked into the living room to find not grief, not warmth, but Elias Crane, attorney already seated, legs crossed, sipping tea like he lived there. My stomach dipped. "Sweetheart," my mother said with a rehearsed softness, patting the couch. "We thought it would be best to discuss the future, for the family." My father slid a folder across the coffee table. The paper inside gleamed like a trap laid under a spotlight. "A family harmony agreement," Elias announced, tapping the title. "Just a formality. It ensures everyone's assets are managed wisely, managed by them." I scanned the clauses, transfer my inheritance into a parent-supervised account, receive a tiny allowance, surrender decision-making authority. This isn't harmony, I whispered. It's control. My father's jaw twitched. Alice, be reasonable. You can't handle that kind of money. We're protecting you. I laughed, sharp, involuntary. Protecting me? From what? From what Grandma trusted me with? My mother's eyes filled instantly. The performance began. We just want what's best for you, she trembled. No, I said, setting the folder down. Absolutely not. The temperature in the room plummeted. Elias leaned forward. Refusing might complicate matters for you. They didn't even try to hide the threat. 2 weeks later, a knock echoed through my small apartment. A uniformed officer handed me a stack of documents. Petition for conservatorship, filed by my own parents, claiming I was incompetent, unstable, financially illiterate. They wanted legal control over every dollar I had. I sat on the floor, shaking, the pages blurring as tears finally spilled. Not because I feared losing the money, but because I realized I had never meant anything to them beyond what I could provide. What they didn't know was that Grandma had already armed me with the one thing they couldn't manipulate, the truth buried in her old receipts. The night before the hearing, I couldn't breathe. My apartment was too small, too quiet, too full of echoes from my parents' accusations. I stared at the conservatorship papers scattered across the rug like broken glass. Then Grandma's voice rose in my memory. Keep receipts, Alice. One day they'll protect you. So I pulled out the rusted metal trunk she left me, the one I hadn't touched in years. Dust exploded into the air as I opened it, stinging my eyes, mixing with the tears already forming. Inside were folders, envelopes, brittle papers, a lifetime of her quiet warnings. Hours passed as I sifted through everything, until my fingers brushed a leather-bound folder labeled in her handwriting. Will, original. My pulse hammered. Inside were notarized documents, signatures, addenda, and then a page I had never seen before. The forfeiture clause. Any beneficiary who sues another to seize their inheritance automatically forfeits their own share. My breath caught. They did this to themselves, I whispered. But the universe wasn't done. I opened my dresser and took out the will that was read after my grandmother's death. At the end, on a separate sheet, there was an amendment my parents claimed gave them financial authority. But the details were wrong, glaringly wrong. The notary seal didn't match the originals. The signature slanted differently, and the date was 3 days after Grandma died. A forgery. I grabbed my phone and called the handwriting expert I'd found online. I need a rush analysis, I said. Please, it's life or death. When the report arrived the next morning, it confirmed everything. The amendment was fake. I looked in the mirror, tired, swollen-eyed, but unbreakable. They thought I was walking into court alone. I was walking in with Grandma's ghost, and she was done being quiet. Judge Harrington entered with the force of a storm contained in a robe. The courtroom fell silent. Even my parents stopped pretending they weren't terrified. Their attorney, Elias Crane, rose first. Your Honor, he said smoothly, we're here to protect Alice. She is overwhelmed. Overwhelmed? I stood, my voice didn't shake. Your Honor, I'd like to submit evidence. Every heartbeat in the room waited to see if I would break. I handed the clerk the original trust, the forged amendment, and the forensic report. Judge Harrington scanned the papers, her expression tightening with every page. Finally, she looked up. This amendment is invalid, and due to the forfeiture clause. She paused, long enough for my mother's breath to hitch. The petitioners forfeit their inheritance. The words detonated. What? Mason shot up. You can't do this, my father barked. My mother turned ghost white. Judge Harrington's gavel struck. Assets will be redirected to the June Harvey Scholars Fund. Grandma's fund. Her dream. Her justice. I walked out of the courtroom alone, my parents' outrage echoing behind me. But the air felt lighter, like a roof had finally lifted off my life.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.